report, Week 18, arguably the most important opening line report of the season. A tricky week for sports bettors, but it could put more winners in your pocket. We'll try to get you on the right side of some of these sides and totals moves throughout the week. I am Drew Martin, joined as always by Teddy Covers, getting you ready for Week 18 here. Teddy, happy Monday morning to you, buddy. Welcome into the show.
Hey, great to be here, Drew. And of course, as you mentioned, Week 18, in some sense, it's like the preseason in terms of the fact that you want to throw away your opinions you have about the teams and you're betting the information about who's playing and how much that they're going to play. That being said, there are some key differences. Of course, the markets are doing the exact same thing. So getting the best of the number, in a sense, Week 18 is a little bit like bowl season this year, where getting the info a little bit more important than getting the best of the number. That being said, preseason, you got 90-man rosters. When teams sit everyone, that means no one's in the field knows what they're doing. You have third stringers, you have practice squad guys, you have guys who are getting cut. In Week 18, when key starters are sitting, they're backups that are playing. These are not preseason third stringers. Note that difference. It's a huge difference. And that offers bettors a chance to take advantage of some market overreactions in Week 18. That's something I like to do. One more thing worth noting, anytime you're talking about a must-win team in Week 18 of the NFL season, the M in must-win, we talked about it last week, too. The M stands for mediocre. When you must win at this stage of the season in order to make the postseason, means you're not that good. You're okay, but you're not elite. And oftentimes you see the teams, the must-win teams, being overpriced when it comes to Week 18 NFL action.
A lot of wisdom there right at the top from Teddy Covers. Guys, the mediocre, like that line, and also, the importance of getting good numbers, always important, but some questions at the end here, guys, which I will touch on that with Teddy Covers, but fire away any questions in the live chat, in the comments below, as this is the last opening line report of the regular season. Going forward, of course, very important. We'll be going Mondays, 10 a.m. Pacific time right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, but they'll be shorter shows, so we'll have more time for questions. So fire away in the comments below. Anything is welcome, guys. Before we get to the OLR here, Teddy, we do have the Detroit Lions, San Francisco 49ers, Monday Night Football, the last Monday Night Football of the season. Mostly -3 and a hook here. That is the Lions as the road favorite. There are some threes with heavy juice. It looks like 50.5, 50 being the total Lions 49ers here. You liking anything Monday Night Football?
Yeah, I'm in play on this game. I played Detroit first half minus. I got 2.5 minus juice. I wouldn't argue with -3 first half. Every quote coming out of the Lions locker room is, we're interested. It's a truly meaningless game when it comes to the standings. All right. Detroit will play Minnesota next week. The winner gets the number 1 seed. The loser is the wild card team. So Detroit has nothing to gain from winning tonight, which concerns me in the second half of this ballgame. That being said, they have not forgotten how they lost in San Francisco in the NFC Championship game last year. And the 49ers, you want to have fun, go look at the 49ers offensive line injury report for tonight. They could have as many as 3 starters on the offensive line who were on other teams' practice squads 2 weeks ago. So, for what it's worth, I played Lions first half. I advise my clients to do the same, and thank you for watching. You'll get it here just for watching. That being said, we're seeing as sharp a square divide as you're ever going to find for a game. The pros are betting San Francisco. Detroit's got nothing to play for. The Joes are clearly on the Lions. They've been backing the Lions all year, and that hasn't changed, and San Fran hasn't really shown up the last couple of weeks. So this is a game where the books that cater to recreational bettors will be rooting heavily for San Francisco when all's said and done. That being said, we've seen a little bit of under money, and we're seeing two-way action on the side. All the pros are betting San Fran. All the Joes are betting Detroit. I'm on the Joe side of this one, at least for the first half. That's after 30 minutes of game time, I won't give a hoot about what the second half looks like.
Yeah, guys, the Joes have been cashing with the Lions, that's for sure. Look at Dan Campbell's against the spread record. It's pretty insane, over 67%. But, hey, we'll see what happens Monday Night Football. All right, let's start it off here. We got 2 Saturday games, guys. I believe it was just flexed out here by the NFL. Our producer, Dan Alexander, helping us out. And it looks like, Teddy, Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens will kick off Week 18, 4:30 Eastern on Saturday. So this is the first game we're going to talk. We're going to talk the 2 Saturday games and then go down in rotation order for the Sunday games, guys. 343, 344 here, 42 being the total. And Teddy, this is a monster number. Minus 17.5, minus 18. That's the Baltimore Ravens is the home favorite. So it's the Cleveland Browns, Baltimore Ravens kicking us off Saturday afternoon with, minus 18. Teddy, I'll throw it over to you. Anything you want to throw out? Browns and Ravens.
Yeah, there's a ton to talk about for this ballgame. Let me talk conceptually about opening line report and what we do. I do not have the look headlines this week. Week 18, you don't. The books don't put them out because there are too many if factors and there's too many correlations between you bet on a team do something in week 17, you bet on them to do something in week 18. So we didn't see. I don't have look headlines for us this week. My power rating numbers are garbage. All right, because my power rating numbers I did not adjust for who's playing, who's not playing, who's sitting, who's not sitting. So I'm going to give you my power rating number, but it's not anything I'm betting on. This week, because the power rating number is the true team power rating, and this week is one of the weeks where it's all info, it's all nuance, who's going to play, how much are they going to play, et cetera, et cetera. So beware, there will be some significant adjustments from my power rating number to what the point spread is, what the point spread's supposed to be, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I'm not betting anything based on power rating numbers this week. I just do them because that's what I do every Sunday night. And of course, we'll talk about where the line's open and where they're moving. And with this Baltimore-Cleveland line, as you're talking about right now, laying, 17.5? Is it still, or are we gone up?
It's a split line. 17 and a hook, 18.
I mean, the betting markets are not attracting a lot of Cleveland money these days. We saw that again yesterday. And of course, the number one pick is in play in the 2025 draft for the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland right now is the number 3 spot in the draft. They need to lose here, and then the Patriots and Titans, who are both going to be facing teams that are going to be resting starters, likely. They would need those 2 teams to win. But it's certainly a Cleveland team that offensively is very limited at this stage of the campaign. And it's from a fundamental matchup standpoint, it's a Cleveland team. They've had some issues defending the run. And what does Baltimore want to do? They want to run the ball down their throats. Now, the Ravens win this game, and they win the AFC North, which is certainly a motivator. That being said, even if you're up 2 touchdowns in the second half, you got to be up 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns before you're starting to take starters out of the ball game. For what it's worth, of course, the Ravens are coming off a game in which they outgained Houston 432 to 210. Baltimore certainly showing signs of being every bit the Super Bowl contender we thought they were, but from a value stand, look, I can tell you right now, I'm not playing this game. I don't want the favorite. I don't want the dog. The betting market's not making it easy for us to get involved with Baltimore here. They know that the public wants to bet the Ravens. And I mean, maybe this game's covered by halftime. Might be in a first half wager here for Baltimore. I wouldn't argue with that. But again, no betting bargains for teams like Baltimore in week 18. Win and you win the division title. Yeah, that's one of those things where the betting markets will always price you at a premium. Again, my powering number for the game, and again, my powering numbers are garbage this week. I know, 15.5 for what it's worth. But that's with the Ravens starters against the Browns starters, which is what we're going to see. So maybe there's something to be said for that 15.5 being a more accurate number than the 17.5/18 we're seeing now. But that's not one of those situations. Sometimes this week you find games that are, a touchdown or more off of your number. Those tend to be the ones I get involved with, not the ones that are less than a field goal off of my number.
Good start here, Teddy. And guys, we got 2 flex outs on Saturday. That is Cleveland and Baltimore in the books here. And a side note, if you want to make a side bet for the show, the Wager Talk Live odds screen, which I read off of, you guys should always have it up, has Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, the next one up, but it hasn't updated yet. So all of these games are in rotation order. Minus 110 on both sides of this bet, a side bet for the show. that we go down in rotation order on Sunday. I read out one of these games again, Teddy. -110 on both sides. Stay tuned for that if I make that mistake, guys. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, Teddy. Next game up, we got the Bengals. -2 and a hook here. There is a -3 out there as the road favorite. 48 being the total. Bengals Steelers Saturday night.
At -110, I'm taking the yes. You will read off one of those games. One of the two. At even money, no problem there. When it comes to the Steelers and the Bengals, remember, if Baltimore wins, this game then becomes, in theory, meaningless for Pittsburgh, who is still goes into the game with a chance to win the division title, but it doesn't make it meaningless for Cincinnati, who, look, if Denver loses and Miami loses and Cincinnati wins, they're in. Okay. They need two teams to lose before and to win this game in order to get the W. And certainly, for Joe Burrow continues to play at an MVP level. All right. Cincinnati's defense, which has been much maligned during this winning streak down the stretch, they've played better. Let's not forget overtime. All right. They blew the game-winning field goal, much to the chagrin of Denver backers. And then what did the defense do? 3 and out in OT. That's never easy to do, and give the offense enough time to get back on the field and win the ball game. So there's been positive signs from a defense that's been rough all year long. And Burrow's played at an MVP level. Russell Wilson's not playing at an MVP level right now. He took 5 sacks this past weekend. He had his second red zone turnover in as many weeks, an interception in the end zone. We've seen Pittsburgh's offensive line decline a little bit in recent weeks, and the defense hasn't been as good. Obviously, they've stepped up in class. But, since going 5-1 in his first 6 starts with the Steelers, well, and this is an interesting game because this line was opened, so my number here is Cincy -1.5. The market's open in that 1.5-2 range. Immediately took Cincinnati money, was bet up to 3, and now we're seeing all the 3s got taken out. We're back down to 2.5. At most locations. Yeah, all the 3s have been taken out now. So the markets were interested in Pittsburgh at +3. We'll see if that happens, if that line gets there again for Saturday night. And again, this has the potential to be very meaningful for one team and not so meaningful for the other, depending on what happens in Baltimore and Cleveland. And remember, when it comes to seeding, if a team, if you win, you get the 5 seed. If you lose, you get the 6 seed. That is not a motivator for NFL players. Getting into the playoffs is a motivator, but even the number 1 seed is a motivator because you get a bye week. But you talk about, if you win this game, you're the 3 seed. If you lose, you're the 6 seed. Teams don't care. It's not anything that's real in that regard. Teams care about winning a division, but playing for seeding, if you're betting on teams playing for seeding, you're good luck with that.
For sure, Teddy. As we'll flip the script here, Sunday, January 5th. Heading back to the top of the card here, guys. 335, 336 going down in rotation order. 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. New Orleans and Tampa Bay. It is the Bucs, -14. There is 14 and a hook popping up here. Tampa Bay as the home favorite. 43.5 being the total in Raymond James Stadium, TC.
Yeah, my powering number is only 11.5. The market's open 14, 43.5 last night. Now we're seeing 14.5s. This morning, and it's a Tampa team where they haven't won the division yet. They need this W. If they lose, Atlanta's wide open to make some noise. And Tampa's blowing out teams. All right, we've seen I think now half a dozen times this year where the Bucs, when they get in control, they keep scoring. The offense keeps going. I mean, it's really been impressive in that regard. And yes, Tampa has some defensive issues, and their secondary continues to be riddled with key injuries. But, the Saints are having a rough time right now. They're Darren Rizzi. And let me be very clear. Darren Rizzi has insisted that if Derek Carr is healthy, he's going to play. If Alvin Kamara is healthy, he's going to play. He said that both guys are week to week. Now, Carr hasn't played since week 16. Kamara's been out the last 2 games. Chris Olave's been a full participant in practice last week, but he's missed 7 games in a row. So there's a chance we could see the Saints with some of their key offensive weapons back on the field this week. And again, from Derek Carr to Spencer Rattler is not a huge drop-off, but it's a drop-off. Rattler's a rookie 5th rounder. And the Saints, when you're losing by multiple scores on your own home field against the Raiders in Week 17, it doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence you're going to show up in Week 18 against a team that's blowing out opponents on a regular basis.
Yeah, in agreement there, Teddy, as we got 337-338 up next, Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots. We are seeing the Bills -2 and a hook. There is a singled out -3 here as the road favorite, 40 in the hook being the total. AFC East matchup here, Teddy, Buffalo and New England.
Yeah, my powering number is Bills 11.5. Obviously, that's not a real number for this ball game. We don't know who's going to start or sit for Buffalo. The market's open 2-41 last night. We're seeing 2.5s this morning, 2.5s with juice at a lot of books. And the total has been bet down 41-40. Obviously, the Bills now, have clinched the number 2 seed. There's nothing left to play for. They may well. And, of course, they have to play in the first round, the first weekend of the playoffs. So it could easily be a complete no-show for Buffalo in this ballgame. They could be sitting all of their key players. I don't know. And the markets don't know yet. As for New England, even if Buffalo sits everyone, are the Bills' backups better than the Patriots starters? Maybe. Patriots ran 15 offensive plays in the first half. That was tied for the fewest by any team in the first half in the last 5 seasons. Completely outclassed by the Chargers. And, we've seen a lot of these teams, the bottom feeders. They show up for the divisional games, not so much for the non-divisional games. So, New England did battle Buffalo just 2 weeks ago. But when the stadium's half full, when the crowd is chanting "Fire Mayo," it's going to be hard for me to get to the window with the Patriots. I'll leave it at that. My clients and I had a lot of fun with New England on Saturday. A game that was a bad handicap, and boy, I'm not going to have a wronger side than that all year. So that being said, in theory, New England's supposed to show up for this one after not showing up for last one. But I'm not convinced the Patriots starters are good enough to beat the Bills backups. And neither are the markets, obviously, with the money coming for Buffalo right now.
Next game up, Chicago Bears, Green Bay Packers, NFC North matchup here, Teddy. 40 and a hook being the total. We're seeing the Packers -9 at most shops. There is an 8.5 out there in the global market. So it's Bears at Packers. Packers heavy favorites here, -9, the consensus number.
Again, my powering number is 12.5. That's not a meaningful number, given the fact that Green Bay's already locked in. The markets opened 9.5, 40.5 last night. And as you mentioned, more 9s than 9.5s right now, with 8.5s out there as we speak. And still 40.5 the total. So, this line hasn't done a whole lot. The Bears, they'll have extra time after that debacle against the Seahawks. That was about as ugly an offensive performance as you'll ever see. Caleb Williams averaged 1.3 air yards per completion. Completed only one pass of 10 or more yards downfield. And the Bears punted 7 times in that ballgame. And, of course, they have the significant injury issues on the left side of the offensive line, injuries to Braxton Jones and Tevin Jenkins, neither one of them played last week. Caleb Williams has been sacked 7 times last week, now 67 sacks for the season. Williams has avoided interceptions, but Green Bay creates interceptions. And that's very, very real. The Packers have lived, in many sense, off turnovers this season. But, Green Bay is slap in the face again yesterday. I know they made things interesting late against Minnesota, but again, they were outclassed early, just like it was in the first meeting. So 2 games against the Lions, 2 losses, 2 games against the Vikings, 2 losses, 1 game against the Eagles, 1 loss. They're 11-0 against everybody else, and they're facing everybody else here. But, Xavier McKinney, quote, "We got to take it upon ourselves to change that narrative that we can't beat good teams. We can't just sit up here and talk about it. We already went through this feeling. Either we change it or we don't. If not, it's not going to be good for us." They can finish no better than the 6th seed. This is a truly meaningless game. I'm not sure how interested they're going to be. That being said, the betting markets don't care how interested they're going to be. They don't want their money on Chicago right now, even though the Bears did come in under the number against the Seahawks. It wasn't pretty in doing so.
We're heading up to New Jersey. Up next, New York Jets hosting the Miami Dolphins. Interesting handicap here. Afternoon kick on Sunday, 1:25 p.m. Pacific, 425 Eastern, -2 and a hook here. That is the Dolphins as the road favorite, 40 and a hook, 41 being the total. A lot going on here with the Dolphins, Teddy. I guess still alive, need some help. The whole Tua saga as well. Dolphins at Jets, next game up.
Yeah, Denver loses, Miami wins, they're in. I mean, it's that simple. They have the tiebreaker edge against Cincinnati. So they need a Broncos loss, and of course they'll be playing at the same time. My powering number has Miami 6 3/4. I got 6.5/7. The market's open 2.5 and 40.5 last night, and they're still sitting at 2.5 today. 41, the prevailing total. So let's start with this. All right, Tua may play in this ball game. All right, he missed last weekend. Hundley played well, It wasn't brilliant, but 22 of 26 for 225 and a touchdown. He ran for another score. And he looked comfortable in the offense for the first time all season. He had a couple starts earlier where it wasn't really pretty. Huntley's not going to fire away downfield. He's a dink and dunker. Miami's deep passing offense isn't likely to be in play if Huntley goes, but there's a decent chance that Tua plays. And if you want to get involved in this one, hoping that Tua is going to play, you can lay 2.5 now, and you may still get to have the right number because the Miami's playing the Jets. All right, that is very, very real. Okay, here's the quote from Coach McDaniel. Quote, the main thing was that he not only was super susceptible to a much more significant injury based on the first injury if he were to fall in harm's way, but a major factor was a lack of strength due to injury and the inability, as we forecast, to protect himself and his teammates from the pocket doing the things that he normally has to do. And his quote, he has no idea whether Tua Tagovailoa is going to play in the regular season finale. There's a chance that he will. That being said, Huntley, quote, I actually know what the motions are. I've got a good feel of the plays right now. So, yeah, a couple of weeks in the offense, it definitely makes a difference. The Jets, I mean, what can you say about the Jets? That was lots of quit in the second half of that ball game. That's the second straight week that there was lots of quit in the second half. We saw that against the Rams. Tyrod Taylor came into the game when it was 40-0. All right, the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career that his team faced a 40-point deficit in the game that he started. Rodgers, of course, with 2 interceptions and a 1.2 total QBR, lowest of his career. Quote, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the season. It just got away from us. Too many games got away from us. This game got away from us. We're moving the ball well. Then we just hit a wall. And that's been kind of the season, too. I won't put any money on the Jets for Week 18. I'm surprised this number is as low as it is, given Miami's quote-unquote must-win status. Although, again, if Denver wins, it's not going to matter, but Denver's going to be playing at the same time. That number's short, man. I got to get to the window. But that's one that's worth noting. And, of course, it's only going to be the Miami money. I guess it's cold. We want to check the weather forecast. Miami hasn't acquitted themselves well in the cold. It was not cold, particularly cold yesterday in Cleveland. Clearly, I'm leaning towards the Dolphins.
And 2.5 right now, guys. The number pretty much across the board here, so we'll see how long that lasts. As we'll stay with the afternoon kicks and the team we were just talking about, the Denver Broncos at home here hosting the Kansas City Chiefs, 39 being the total. It's Broncos -9 and a hook or -10 out there, Teddy. So it's Broncos hosting the Chiefs a mile high.
Yeah, again, powering number is Kansas City -4.5, but that's the Chiefs starters. Obviously, we don't expect to see a lot of the Chiefs starters in this ball game, or do we? We'll talk about that in just a minute. The market's opened. I wrote 8.5/9/9.5 for Denver last night, total of 39. We're seeing 10s today. Total hasn't moved at all. Yes, when Kansas City won against Pittsburgh on Christmas Day, that clinched the number 1 overall seed. It clinched a first-round bye, and they'll have home games until the Super Bowl. So one would assume, in theory, that Andy Reid's going to rest guys. That being said, they got the bye next week. All right. Andy Reid's been in these spots before. Kansas City 3-0 straight up, 2-1 ATS. So last week, 3-18s. Last year, they sat everyone against the Chargers at +3.5, and they won the game straight up. My clients and I cashed with that. I mean, do we see Mahomes? Maybe. Do we see him for a quarter or two? Maybe. Do we see him for the full game? Maybe. The markets are saying no chance. I'm not convinced that's the case. Andy Reid hasn't said that. And even if Kansas City does sit everyone, again, this is a Super Bowl roster. And Denver has lost 3 in a row. And opposing coaches have made adjustments for Bo Nix. Bo Nix was able to fire away downfield earlier in the season. That's not been the case in recent weeks. And that's a big part of why Denver's been losing. And boy, the quotes out of that locker room after they lost on Saturday. That's a team where the pressure and the stress is real right now. They had 3 chances to win to clinch. Now they had 2 chances to win and clinch. Now they have 1 chance to win and clinch. I'm not convinced KC lays down in this ballgame. I think this number's too high.
Yeah, it does look pretty high. Teddy, I usually wait till the end to ask the question, but I'm worried you might not have that stat in front of you at the end. That was Kansas City 3-0, 2-1 ATS, Andy Reid in Week 18.
Yeah, the last 3 years. Yes.
Okay.
The one they didn't cover, what was the one they didn't cover? I think they were laying doubles. Let me look it up real quick.
Okay.
They didn't cover. They didn't love it. They didn't cover at Denver minus 12.5 in 2021. They only won that game by 4. That being said, they won the game.
Yeah, that seems like a repeatable stat, and I thought it was a great point. They got the bye anyway, so how much rest do they really want to get? It might turn into rust a little bit. Great points there, Teddy. We get 347, 348 up next, afternoon kick here. It is the Chargers and the Raiders. So the LA Chargers at the Las Vegas Raiders here. It is Chargers -5 and a hook. There's -6 out there in the global market. Looking at the Wager Talk Live odds screen, 41 and a half being the total. Bolts at Raiders right down the road from your house, TC.
Yeah. We, plenty of good seats still available. My power number is the Chargers -5, opened -5.5 and 41 last night. That's basically what we're seeing today. As you mentioned, there are some 6s that have popped. And, the Chargers were impressive in New England. In theory, they can get a higher seed if they win here and the Steelers lose. That's not a motivator. They've made the playoffs. And it's worth noting, concerns about LA's offensive line all year. Well, he only got pressured 6 times on his 40 dropbacks in New England. And when he's not pressured, Justin Herbert's as good as a QB as you're going to find in this league, and they can run the football, which is a positive sign. That being said, there is a decent chance that the Chargers rest everybody in this ballgame. We'll see what Harbaugh says. He might, and we'll see who starts and then who ends up on the field in the fourth quarter of this contest. I'm not comfortable laying a price with the Chargers team that may have all backups on the field. And the Raiders just entered a 10-game losing streak, now back-to-back wins, blowout in New Orleans yesterday. Aiden O'Connell looked good yesterday, 242 passing yards and a couple of touchdowns. They dealt with adversity off the field. They had mechanical problems on the plane. They didn't arrive at the hotel till after midnight, less than 12 hours before kickoff. Went out and played just fine. And, of course, the Raiders clearly not playing for the number 1 overall pick. They had they were in the position to get it 2 weeks ago, and then they beat the Jags, and now they beat the Saints. So they have a 0.1% chance of the number 1 overall pick. That's important to recognize these things. The Giants winning yesterday, the Raiders winning these games. While the fans might want teams to tank, and sometimes even management wants teams to tank, the players on the field, the coaches on the field, they ain't tanking. And that's certainly been the case for the Raiders.
Makes absolute sense. As a player, as a coach, you're not guaranteed next year. So make your resume as good as possible type deal. We get Jacksonville and Indianapolis for the next game. Early kicks for the next 3 here, guys. 45 and a half being the total. -5. That's the Colts as the home favorite. Tough week for them last week here, Teddy. But they're back at home facing the Jaguars at Colts next game up.
Yeah, my powering number on this game is 4. The market's open 5/5.5 last night, total of 44.5. We have seen over money for this ballgame. The 44.5s are now 45.5. And some of that has to do with Jacksonville's defense. Tennessee averaged more than 5 yards per carry at 160 yards on the ground. That being said, it's the best I've seen Mac Jones look as a pro. Brian Thomas is really good. Brian Thomas has 8 games this season, which had at least 60 yards and a touchdown. That tied Randy Moss's all-time rookie record, for what it's worth. So the Jags offense is moving the football. And there's no way I lay a price with Indy in this ballgame. 3 times in the last 4 years, they failed late season with a playoff berth on the line. Last year, they lost at Houston at home to Houston in Week 18, failing to make the postseason as a result. And of course, in 2 of those 3 late season playoff eliminating failures, they lost to the worst team in the league. In 2021, it was the Jags. Yesterday, it was the Giants. Worth noting, the Giants entered Week 17 having allowed the 5th most sacks in the NFL. The Colts did not get a sack yesterday. They had exact grand total of 1 quarterback hit. This is an unbackable team for Week 18, in my opinion. It's Jags or pass. And, do you want the Jags? I know I don't want Indy. I'm not sure I want Jacksonville.
Next one up, 351, 352, Carolina and Atlanta. 47 and a hook being the total. We are seeing the Falcons -8 at most shops. There is 7.5 with juice as the home favorite. So it's Panthers at Falcons from the ATL-TC.
Yeah, my powering number in the game is 8. The market's open. I'll call it 7.5, 47.5 last night. And as you mentioned, split line today, 7.5/8. For Atlanta. There is an 8.5 that has just popped up, but we're seeing the Falcons take the early money. And look, Carolina was a no-show yesterday in Tampa. And when they don't have Chuba Hubbard, all of a sudden, Chuba Hubbard's the key to that offense. He's on, I think he's on IR. I know he's an injury that I would pay attention to today. I would pay attention to before I get this game because Carolina's offense doesn't work without him. And they gave up, 359 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, no J.C. Horn, no Josie Jewell. The teams with the first-year head coaches who are going to be back, like Dave Canales is going to be back next year, they tend to keep fighting till the end. I'm not sure Carolina is good enough. And certainly when you talk about a team that can't, if you can't run the football, that's not going to help Bryce Young a whole lot. But, Atlanta was in a situation where they controlled their own destiny. They had a chance, a game-winning field goal attempt at the end that came up just short. Boy, it looked good when it left his foot. And then they couldn't get a stop in overtime and allowed the game-winning touchdown to Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Michael Penix made all the plays when he had to during crunch time. The Falcons, who had an NFL low 10 sacks through 11 games, they've had 5 straight games with at least 3 sacks now, 21 since their Week 12 bye. The pass rush is there. And they need Tampa to lose as 2 touchdown favorites. Of course, they'll be playing at the same time, so they won't know what's going on in Tampa Bay necessarily, but obviously you'll get scoreboard updates. And if the Saints are giving the Bucs a game, it could give the Falcons some energy. But given that Tampa's a 2 touchdown favorite, if they're up by 21-0, we'll see how hard Atlanta plays. This is a point spread that this is a game that's very difficult to bet. You're laying a price with Atlanta. Atlanta isn't good enough and hasn't been winning games enough by margin to lay a price with. And Carolina is a team I don't want here, so not likely a game I'm going to be involved in.
353, 354 up next. NFC East battle here, guys. Washington and Dallas. We are seeing the Commanders -3 at most shops. There is -3 and a hook in Las Vegas. 44 being the total. Commanders at Cowboys. Next game up.
Yeah, my power number is 4. The market's open 3 and 40. Is that 45.5 last night? And we've seen under money come in this morning down to 44. And money for the Commanders. Now, the Commanders clinched their playoff spot last night in overtime. This is a team that won 4 games last year, and they won 11 this year. Jay Daniels was unbelievable. He was really impressive. 127 yards rushing, 227 yards passing, 3 TDs, including the game winner. And now a long downtrodden franchise gets to exhale. Can't lay with Washington this week. Don't know who's going to play, don't know who's not going to play, but it's not a let's lay points with them on the road scenario. That being said, the Cowboys have nothing to play for. They were no-shows in Philadelphia last week. They gave up 6 straight scoring drives in that ballgame defensively. And offensively, they're just not good enough given all the injuries that they've suffered. I heard some chatter that Trey Lance could start this game, and I want no part of my money on Trey Lance. So it's not likely a game I'm going to get involved with. I can't make a case for either team. I can understand why the early money has come for the under, even though Washington's not really an under team.
Trey Lance still hanging around an NFL squad here, Teddy. We get Seattle and the LA Rams up next. It is the Seahawks, -3 with juice as the road favorite. 39 and a hook being the total. Heading out west here, Seahawks and Rams.
So my powering number has the Rams -5.5. Of course, my powering number is garbage because the Rams are going to be sitting everyone, in theory, this week. Markets opened 2.5 and 41 last night. The 2.5s are all gone. It's 3 and even 3 with juice at many books right now. Total also has been bet down to 39.5. Of course, Seattle has now missed the playoffs in consecutive seasons for the first time since 2008 and 2009. That's been bad. Gino just couldn't get the job done against good defenses. You know, the red zone issues were a problem. That being said, it wasn't pretty against Chicago. They got the win, 7 sacks, and controlling the flow of the game with their defense, with a defensive-minded head coach. But I have no idea what Seattle's going to bring to the table here. I know that the Rams clinched the NFC West with that Washington win over Atlanta last night, so they've clinched the division. And McVay will not be playing his starters this week, even if they're playing for a higher seed. They have a chance for number 3 versus number 4. Last year, in this spot, the Rams started Carson Wentz in Week 18, even with playoff seeding in play. And it's worth noting, even with Stafford, this offense hasn't scored 20 points in any of the last 3 weeks. That being said, they won all 3 of those games, 12-6 versus San Fran, 19-9 versus the Jets, 13-9 versus Arizona. All of a sudden, this defense is playing at an elite level. LA became the first team in NFL history to reach the playoffs in back-to-back seasons after being at least 3 games under 500, 1-4 start last year, 1-4 start this year. But last year, again, with seeding on the line, Stafford said, Cooper Kupp said, Kyron Williams said, Aaron Donald said, et cetera, et cetera. I would anticipate McVay is going to rest everyone here. And that's why we're seeing Seahawks money, and we may well see more.
Love that, bringing up last year with the head coaches, who they're playing here, Teddy. Great stuff. As we got San Francisco and Arizona next up. There are some books, I'm not seeing a number here, Teddy. Of course, the 49ers playing in Monday Night Football, as we're talking Monday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific time, NFL opening line report. 46 and a hook being the total. Pick 'em. There is a couple -1s out there. That's the 49ers as the road favorite. So it's Niners at Cardinals from the desert here, TC.
Yeah, I'm seeing, as you mentioned, a split line at the books that have it right now with either San Fran -1 or a pick 'em, total 46.5. My powering number is Arizona -3 for the ball game. The 49ers play Monday Night Football against the Lions. And if they show up here, I'm not convinced they're going to show up on Sunday. If they don't show up here, I'm not convinced they're going to show up Sunday. So, I don't want San Fran in this game. This may be a character game for Arizona. You know, it's a team we liked all the offseason quotes. We cashed a winning bet on Arizona over their season win total. It's not like they've quit. It's not like they've collapsed. They just haven't been good enough. But Kyler Murray, 321 yards and a touchdown, 48 pass attempts. They were chucking the ball all over the field in that ballgame. Didn't put the biscuit in the basket in the end zone. Let's see what I'm not convinced San Fran shows up for Week 18. I would only look at the Arizona side. In this one, they're certainly on my short list.
AFC South matchup up next as we got an early kick. 3-6-1, 3-6-2, Houston and Tennessee. We are seeing the Titans. I'm seeing -3 here, Teddy, as the home favorite. 36.5 being the total. Texans at Titans from Nashville.
And again, my powering number is based on Houston starters who aren't supposed to be in the game here, but my powering number says Houston -5. The markets opened Tennessee 4.5, 36.5 last night, and it's been nothing but Texans money ever since. As you mentioned, it's down to 3 at many books. There are even 2.5s popping up here in Las Vegas. and the Texans have won the AFC South. They will host a playoff game, but they're just 1-5 against winning teams, and the way they lost to Baltimore on Christmas night wasn't pretty. I mean, both sides of the football. They had only one sack of Lamar Jackson. They allowed Baltimore to run for 251 yards. The offense didn't put a point on the board. So the question is, what's more important for Houston? The rest here? And again, there's lots of guys aren't going to play. I mean, they already have a bunch of guys on IR: Steph Diggs, Tank Dell, Jimmy Ward, Jalen Petra, et cetera, et cetera. But do we see starters for a quarter? Do we see them for a half? It feels to me like this team needs to beat someone before they get in the playoffs. Now, if I'm Ryans, I might play my starters in this one. And if I'm playing my starters in this one, Tennessee's got no business laying a price. I mean, the Titans stink. They are what they are. I mean, really. What's to like about Tennessee? Where's the bet on? Where's the effort? I see nothing that makes you like the Titans side. It's Texans or pass for me on this one. And again, this line is telling us Houston's sitting everyone. I haven't heard that out of DeMeco Ryan's mouth yet.
Sure, Teddy, as we got a big Sunday night football game here. Minnesota Vikings, Detroit Lions. We are seeing Lions -2.5. There is a -3 out there. 52 and a hook being the total. Do note the Lions play Monday Night Football. Not sure it matters in this situation, but I'll throw it over to you, TC. Vikings at Lions from the Motor City.
Yeah, I'll call this a split line still, because you can say there's plenty of threes, even money, or 3 minus a nickel for Detroit, and there's plenty of 2.5s with juice as well. My powering number for the game is 3. The market's open split last night, 2.5/3, 52.5. And that's basically what we're seeing today. There are some 52s out there in this one. And I mean, Minnesota playing for the number 1 seed in the NFC. That's impressive, especially considering what we were talking about. This team come September did it again yesterday, knocking off Green Bay, a very confident team right now. But a lot of celebration after the win against the Packers. A lot of celebration. And certainly, you expect that to come over. A week later, you're not that worried about it. But sometimes that concerns me. And of course, the Lions play Monday night against San Francisco. Doesn't matter, win, lose, draw. This game will determine the NFC North title and the number 1 seed in the NFC. And that has a lot, when we talk about tonight's game versus next week's game for Detroit. We all know about Detroit's injuries on the defense side of the football. And it's certainly worth noting that the Lions, while they've been elite all year, they've been a much better point spread team on the highway. They have laying a price at Ford Field.
We got one game left for the NFL opening line report regular season. We will be here throughout the postseason, all the way through the Super Bowl and the week after the Super Bowl. So make sure to come back and check us out.
that show, the Monday after the Super Bowl, that's the best show, dude. Could we talk about all the odds for next year? We will run through what happened on the Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, if there's one, I'm sure you guys will be watching come Super Bowl time, but that Monday show after the Super Bowl is always fun, Drew. That's maybe my favorite show of the whole season.
It is. It absolutely is. And the rest of the schedules, I guess, we kind of go as we go, but we usually do one for the NFL draft and then, periodically through the off season. But for sure, guys, the postseason. So make sure to come back. But the last game that we are talking is the New York Giants and the Philadelphia Eagles here for the regular season. -3. There is a -3.5 out there. That's the Eagles as the home favorite. 38 or 38.5 being the total. Giants at Eagles here, TC.
I mean, my powering number is 15, but who knows who Philly's going to play. The betting market's open 3.5 and 38.5 last night. And we're seeing 38s and 3s now. So a little bit of under money and a definitive move towards the Giants. And of course, Philly is the NFC East wrapped up. In theory, they're supposed to rest Saquon Barkley or Jalen Hurts and all of that. Kenny Pickett was okay this past week. And Barkley is just 101 yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's single season rushing record. I wonder how big a motivator that is for Barkley, and if he wants to play and if he's going to get the chance to play in Week 18. The markets don't expect Philadelphia to play anybody. So strange things can and do happen in any NFL Sunday and any NFL season. The Giants came into yesterday's game with 4 touchdown passes of 30-plus yards all year, and then they had 3 more from Drew Lock. Drew Lock, when he has a little bit of time and when he's on, it's okay. He can throw downfield in a way that most backup quarterbacks don't. And that was certainly the case yesterday. He combined for 5 touchdowns, ran for 1, threw for 4, 309 passing yards. And, of course, the Giants, who would have had an 86% chance of getting the top pick with a loss, are now one of 4 teams. Now they're 4th in the draft order. They did avoid the dubious distinction of being the first team to finish 0-9 at home in a season. And, again, when you're talking about a team that hasn't won a game or many games and they win one, do they exhale? They go back and do it again. Certainly, Locke is a known commodity, all right? His problem's always been mistakes. He just throws too many balls up into coverage. But if he's playing backup defenders, that might work here just as well as it worked against Indy yesterday.
Yeah, I'm with you, TC. Drew Lock, his weakness is not arm talent, but it kind of works into what you're talking about, making too many mistakes for sure. Guys, Teddy is 6-0 NFL Week 18 the last 2 years, man. So pay attention here. NFL opening line report, obviously bringing the heat. I love, before we get into questions, Teddy, you bringing up what the coaches did last year. I think that not that it's fully proprietary, it is for you, like other people can go do it, but it proves that you're actually doing the work, and that's stuff that matters. That you're just not going to be able to go find a trend, what they actually did last year, use that this year to find some winners. We do have some questions in terms of, handicapping different situations in Week 18. One you brought up with the New York Jets. They had a lot of quit in the second half. How do you handicap quit? We usually don't talk about it in the NFL. It's more college football, even college basketball, NBA maybe. But in the NFL, is that a big handicap for you? And if so, how do you put a number on it?
So when a team, my experience says that when a team shows quit once, they'll show it again. And it's something we can take advantage of down the stretch of the it's something I look for in September and even October. November, December, college football / NFL, you'll find teams that, again, it's not like every game's a quick game, but there are teams that respond well to adversity and there are teams that don't respond well to adversity. The Jets have clearly been a team that has not responded well to adversity in recent weeks. Everything is nuance for Week 18, all right? There's no magic answer to anything. And you talked about how there's, in terms of trends. I don't have any trends for you. All I have is let's go through every game methodically and figure out what we can find. That's what I try to do every week on the show, and that's what I will do in Week 18 as well. I've basically given you most of my short list for this week, and then what we'll do is we'll read as much as we can to gauge the nuances of what the coaches are saying and what the teams are saying. But there's no magic formula. There's no right answers. It's do your work and understand the nuances. And Week 18 is certainly a time with I'm much more likely to be involved in a first half play than I am during most of the regular season.
Makes sense, Teddy. In the beginning of the show, you brought up number is important in sports betting. If you're new here, getting a good number is very important in sports betting. But you brought up Week 18. You want to be on the right side of the information. Do you mind going into that a little bit more? Because it's very unique to Week 18 in the NFL. I guess you could bring it up in other sports, but information mattering more this week than maybe in past weeks in the NFL.
Well, it's like in terms of why you described it like a preseason week. In preseason NFL, the best bettors have absolutely no opinion about how good teams are. And it's all, what's the information, what's the coach's game plan for this particular week and this particular game, and what do we expect to see after halftime of these games in particular. Week 18 is kind of like that in the sense of it's much more information-based than it is how good the teams are based. And that's why you see Tennessee laying points to Houston, for example, or the Bills only -2.5 against the Jets. or against the Patriots, I should say, and so on and so forth. Miami 2.5 against the Jets or whatever it is. I mean, there's a number of games out there that you can clearly see this is not your normal power rating for Team A, even though it is still your normal power rating for Team B. So I definitely look, it's a scenario in which you're trying to gauge, and it's like any other bet, Drew. I mean, sometimes you're going to be right, sometimes you're going to be wrong, sometimes you're going to get lucky, sometimes you're going to get unlucky. But when you talk about, as bettors, I'm hardwired to get the best of the number. Okay, I've been doing it for 27 years. You don't take bad numbers, et cetera, et cetera. There are exceptions to that rule. Bowl season has been a strong exception to that rule, where the information has been more important than the point spread. And if you got the good info, even at the bad number, you're still able to cash. It's nothing we want to do all the time, nothing you want to do regularly, but in week 18, in my opinion, you miss a number by a point, but you have the info that backs, yeah, you can get involved in those bets in a way that you probably wouldn't in a normal regular season week. Does that make sense?
The live, yeah, absolutely. No, it makes perfect sense. Thank you for explaining that. We got Wes in the live chat saying congrats on the 5% winner with your season win total, Teddy. He was riding with you. And guys, if you want to get next year's season win total, the full year pass would get you that on board for next year. So thanks for chiming in here, Wes. We got the live chat going here, Teddy. But season win totals, huh? I guess they're starting to be marked off.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no drama for week 18. We're going to finish 3-2 with the season wins, cashing the 5% big ticket, cashing the 4%. 5% big ticket was the Saints under, which looked pretty awful after 2 weeks, and then pretty good the rest of the way. And that was that was kind of the point. I didn't expect them to go 2-0 the way they started, but the Saints were a team this offseason. You could see they were, chewing gum and Band-Aids. They were just stuck together, and if they had any injuries, there were going to be problems, and they had significant injuries. And it worked out the way that I thought it would. Arizona worked out the way I thought it would largely. They got over their win total. And Dallas going under, that's the third win that we had this year. I did have two wrong. I had Buffalo under, and that was wrong early, and I knew that was wrong early. And I was Denver, which I was also as wrong as I could be. I did Broncos under. That was pretty much dead by about week 3 or week 4. Where the Broncos were a whole lot better than I expected them to be. But I'll take a 3-2 with the 5% big ticket cashing and the 4% cashing as well. I'm not going to complain about it. And as you mentioned, Drew, any of the seasonal packages get you that report for free. And with the great deals, I mean, this holiday special, we got Holiday 25 at checkout. Anything you want, from a 1-day pass to a 365-day all-access pass. You get 25% off anything and everything in your cart. Just use promo code HOLIDAY25 at checkout. And that does expire New Year's Eve at midnight. So if you want to give yourself a late Christmas present or an early New Year's present, get on board with any of the packages. Not just me. You can use it for Drew. You can use it for any of the cappers at wagertalk.com. But that NFL season win report is something I spend a lot of time with over the summer. I take a lot of pride in the record that I've been able to put together with that report over the last 2 decades, and I'm confident we'll do it again next summer, and hopefully find some more winners.
Absolutely. It's a must read for me, guys. And Teddy covers, man, he's been hot overall. 6-0, like we mentioned, week 18 NFL the last 2 years. So pay attention for that in his client picks. Obviously, giving out the information here. NFL opening line report, doing the work. He's got a 5% up in college football, which, by the way, 5-0 in the 5% college footballs on top of the 25-15 long-term run NFL 5%ers. So these 5% big tickets you don't want to miss, guys. And he's got one up in college football here for the college football playoff game, Ohio State and Oregon. So, Teddy, I'll throw it over to you, man. Anything you want to throw out there before we shut this down?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I appreciate the promos. Week 18's been pretty darn good in recent years. I got a decent short list right now, and it won't be long after I get off air before we start to dig and see what we can find. Hopefully we'll be able to release some stuff early this week and maybe get the best of the numbers. That being said, I appreciate you guys so much, man. The comments in the chat are wonderful every week. Thank you for all your support, and take advantage of that promo. Again, Holiday 25. It expires on Tuesday at midnight, New Year's Eve at midnight, but any package you want from any capper at wagertalk.com. Take 25% off. Again, from a single play to a full year all access. Knock yourself out. Holiday 25 at checkout. And we appreciate the likes very much. We appreciate the follows very much. We appreciate the comments very much. Thank you for being part of the Wager Talk family, and Happy New Year's, guys. We'll talk again in 2025.
Happy New Year. Enjoy the holiday, guys. For Teddy Covers, I'm Drew Martin. Smash that like button, comment below. Cash those tickets. We'll be back next week. Playoff edition, NFL opening line report. Come back and join us. Thanks for tuning in.